we begin, I just wanted to share a couple of things that I think is important for us as we kick off this segment. First and foremost, I would like to ask that you have a notebook and a pen or a piece of paper, because this is going to be a very engaging session. There'll be a lot of questions that I'll be posing, and the expectation is that you will be able to answer the questions for yourself, or perhaps take note of the questions, and then you can be able to answer them at a separate time. So I've put up an image which I believe you can all see. I hope this is an image that you have seen before. And I want to ask a question. Given this image, is this a reality for any one of you? And the question that I have is, are women created to thrive or to survive? Because when you look at this image, it's very clear that women face a lot of challenges along their lives. We wear different hats at different points of our lives. So the question is, when you are supposed to show up as a leader in your organization, you're still supposed to show up as an ideal wife, a mother, a nurturer. At some point you have to be a teacher. At some point you have to be a cook, a chef, even a doctor. Are you showing up as your best self? And are you showing up and ensuring that none of these roles is suffering? I believe for me, this is a very strong reminder of the different challenges that we face, specifically as women, but as general, you know, every single human being carries various, aspects of life that require them to engage and to show up at their highest best self. And what is it that you need to do to ensure that none of these roles that you're carrying is suffering? The FSD report that I was looking at was just showing that in this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, women have actually experienced a lot more challenges. There has been a lockdown, and there has been industries that have been impacted. A lot of these industries are within segments or sectors that are predominantly run by women. For example, hospitality, restaurants, event companies, catering services, and these have all been impacted adversely, unfortunately. Even looking at things like frontline staff, nurses in hospitals, predominantly women. Another area that they considered was the fact that with schools being closed, children are now home, and children are considered a responsibility of women. So again, an extra added, strain with regards to how much they can do and what is on their plate. Another area that I found very interesting was that there was an increase in domestic violence, specifically towards women. And the list goes on. So really, for me, it was such a strong reminder that if there ever was a time for you to build a vision board and for you to be intentional about what it is that you're doing with your life, the time is now. So I'll just delve into what is a vision board and vision boarding. And I'll just give a very simple description, as you can see there. And a vision board is literally a visualization tool that is represented by a collage of images and words. And these are representative of your ambitions and your goals, and really just your highest ambitions and your dreams. And it can be a physical board. I would like to say that there are people who like to do it digitally and those who like to do it physically. So there's no hard or fast rule on this. It's what works for you. And you can have this done, very simply using very basic tools, which I will be sharing. The vision boarding exercise in itself is an exercise that has been scientifically proven. And as we go along, I will show you the power of images. I think at this point, I want to give you a little analogy about my life a couple of years ago. And, every end of year, like every good human being, You sit and analyze the year that has been, and you come up with, your resolutions for the new year. And you really, do a great job of noting this down and really being able to articulate what it is you want to focus on in the coming year, how much weight you want to lose, you want to grow your career, you want to go back to school, and you really take time to build a very good, solid, list of specific goals. And for me, what used to happen typically is I would start off in January very motivated with my great list of things to do. I would sign up to the gym. I would start eating vegetables and do away with all the carbohydrates, no chips. And I would focus. Come February, I would begin to sort of get tired of going to the gym, so I'd start to skip a few days. And come March, I would totally slide back to my old self. And really the reason for this was because April is around the corner, and therefore I have an Easter holiday planning going on, and I have to plan to travel with my friends. So when I get down to Mombasa or whatever holiday destination, I'm the first one at the buffet table, having all the chips and having all the bacon for breakfast. And for me, this was a continuous struggle. I would say every year, this year will be different. I will read 15 books. By the time we're in June, I'm not done with my second book or even my first book. And I believe this is where the strength and the value of a vision board comes in. At this point, I want to ask you to take a pause. I want to demonstrate to you the power of images. And I want to do this by making some statements, and I'll give you a minute to pause and write down on your notebook or your piece of paper what comes to your mind, and I will reveal what that looks like on my end. So the first statement I will make is your ideal car. Take a minute and write what comes to your mind when I say that your ideal car. The second one is your dream holiday. Your dream holiday. Again, take a minute and just write down the first thing that comes to your mind. What is your dream holiday? And the third one is your ideal home. Your ideal home. Again, take a minute to write down what comes to your mind. So this is an exercise that I've done in the workshops that I have run for other people. And I've also taken the time to do it myself. So I'll reveal to you what comes to my mind when I ask myself these three questions. So when it comes to my ideal car, this is what comes to mind. When it comes to my dream holiday, this is what comes to mind. And when I think about my ideal home, I see this amazing, beautiful maisonette. And I trust that it's the same for you. And this is really an articulation or a demonstration of the power of images. When I say to you, your ideal car, the word CAR does not appear in your head. What comes to your mind is that car, that picture of that vehicle that you've dreamt of driving, that Range Rover or that Mercedes or BMW, that car that you've always said that one day I will drive this car. When it comes to your holiday, your dream holiday, you'll think of the beach, you'll think of traveling to Greece, Zanzibar, and that's an image that comes to your mind. And the same thing applies to anything really that you really aspire for. And this is just a demonstration. of what the mind perceives what we are planning or desiring for. And this is a scientifically proven fact that images transmit information to our minds faster. And that is why when you have an image in front of you, you're able to really connect with it. And in a subconscious manner, your brain is able to start to make intentional decisions towards achieving that thing because it is constantly in front of it. I think for me, this has been a very powerful realization. And that is why I'm very passionate about vision boarding. And I think when I compare this to what I was doing earlier, which was writing down the notes around my resolutions, and this notebook, I would keep it away, never interact with it, and possibly, refer to it once a month or once a week or, however often, versus a vision board that I put in front of me and I interact with continuously on a daily basis. I mean, the change and the difference was like night and day. So why is the vision board important? And this is a question a lot of people have asked. I think I've already sort of answered this question by demonstrating the power that visuals or images have. But just to give you a quick breakdown, when you have a vision board, it gives you clarity of your goals. And this clarity really comes from how you do your vision board. And I will take you through that, as well as just being able to see these goals in front of you on a regular basis. And this is really a very powerful thing that for me makes vision boards work. I'm sure you've all heard the saying that seeing is being, or what you perceive, you achieve. It all begins with the mind. Whatever it is that you put in your head and you determine to achieve, you will actually be able to achieve it. It also serves as a source of inspiration. I have to say, this year has thrown a curveball at everyone. Nobody expected the whole world to be shut down. But if you have something that is constantly reminding you and it's constantly giving you a sense of perspective, then you'll continue to be inspired. The truth is, you'll not always be motivated. You'll not always jump out of bed and say, oh great, it's a Monday morning. I'm so excited to be going to work this morning. There'll be those days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't feel like getting out of bed. That's the truth. But when you look at your vision board, when I look at my vision board and see that dream holiday that I want to go to, oh, I get the inspiration that I need. When I see that car, I get, that extra kick that I need to actually get me going and to say, get on with it. This is within your reach. You can get it. You can achieve it. It also keeps you focused. In this life with digital engagement, there are a lot of distractions. There's a lot of social media engagements. There's a lot of television. There's a lot of things that you could be doing that take away, your time. And, for me, being able to very intentionally build a vision board enables me to see what it is that I need to focus on, and I can be able to work consistently towards it. And lastly, it helps you realize the value of time. The truth is, we all have an expiry date. But at the end of the day, you need to be intentional about what you do with the time that you have, so that by the time you get to your expiration date, you've actually made that impact. You've achieved, that what you are created to achieve, and you've really lived your best life. So for me, this is really just a nutshell. There's obviously a long list, but this is what I felt would be critical to share with you as far as why vision boards are important. So at this point, I'd like to walk us through the 9 parts of the Actualize It vision boarding process. And I'd like to start with an exercise where I ask some very thought-provoking questions. But before I do that, maybe I could just mention that you can develop a vision board focusing on just one area of your life. So for example, you could say, I want to do a vision board specifically on my health and my fitness, and that's okay. Or you could say, I want to build a vision board that just focuses on my career and my trajectory and where I want to end up in another 5-10 years. That is okay. But what I'm going to share today is what I call a holistic vision board, because I believe strongly that for your life to get to that point where you're giving the best of yourself, every aspect of your life has to be well represented. You have to have a balance between your health, your relationships, your family, your career, whether it's your free time where you're spending time, just relaxation time and all of that, spiritual, your whole self has to really be taken into account. So what I will be sharing is the holistic parts around building a vision board. And you can feel free to add anything that you feel perhaps is important for you, or reduce. Maybe perhaps say, I don't need all 9, I will work with 6. This is really up to an individual. But where I want to begin is by mentioning that for you to build a vision board, you firstly need to have either a physical board. So this can be in the form of an A0 or A1 manila paper. That's what I prefer to use. And these you can get very easily from any stationery shop. Of course, you need to have a couple of magazines. Again, this is based on your preference. I personally prefer to use Google, so I can find the right perfect image, what it is that I want to put on my vision board. And some people actually prefer to do it digitally altogether. So it doesn't have to be a physical, platform or a physical piece of manila paper or board. You can actually do it from a digital perspective and just have it online. And then of course you need to just have a pair of scissors and some glue. So what I will ask you is, from the questions that I will be asking, you'll write down the answers and maybe just take a few minutes to introspect on them. And then, when you start to build the actual vision board, you will translate that which you've put down into images that are representative of your dreams. And then you can put those up on the particular manila paper or board that you have for yourself. So for me, when I do these sessions, I normally take about 4 to 6 hours because it's a very introspective exercise. But because of time, I will do this in, let's say, 10 minutes. I'll summarize it. But there'll be a lot of follow-up work on your part, because some of these questions you might not be able to really answer, just off the few minutes that we have. All right. So before we begin, I want you to remember the following. I want you to dare to dream big. I want to ask you a question. What would you do if you were not afraid? Because the thing about a vision board is it's about your highest, best self. It's not about the limitations that you are currently experiencing. So for me, I'm dreaming of that Range Rover. The reality today is that I can't afford it, but it's my ideal car. So I have it on there anyway. If I look at my current scenario, I'll probably have a very different vehicle, or probably a bicycle on that vision board. But the thing is, the vision board is really about your highest best self. So dare to dream. Think about those things that you really desire, those things that you're very passionate about. It's an ideal scenario. So don't limit yourself. And then focus also on how the achievements will make you feel. Because there are some things that, you really are passionate about. So you have to really introspect. You want to make an impact in society, or you want to do something that will transform, the environment that you're in. And that will really just give you a sense of accomplishment or a sense of joy or a sense of achievement. So that is really something that you need to tap into. And the third thing for me is just focus on the impact that you'll have on others. I have been on a journey of just discovering my purpose, because for me, I don't believe I was created to pay bills and die. So I have been on a journey where I've really been introspecting and really searching to find what it is that I was created to do. And that is a journey of impact in the society that I'm in. So take time to think about what is that impact that you want to have. What are those things that you're really passionate about? Who are those, societal or communities or people that you feel that with your talent, with your skill, you can impact? And, spend time there, because you'll find that the more you engage with that, you'll discover that, it is a space of great interest for you, and it's a space that you can excel in and actually have an impact. So I'll walk you through some thought provokers. And these thought provokers, I will request that you just write them down. So write the questions down. Those that you feel you can answer quickly, perhaps you can just write the answer. But because some of them are a bit deep and you need to introspect and take time to just think through, the best thing is to just write down the question, and when you have time, sit alone and just, truthfully write down the answers to those questions. I always say that a vision boarding exercise is an exercise of confronting yourself. You're really just confronting your true self, the true desires of your heart, your dreams, your ambitions. So you really have to be very authentic and very open, very real with yourself. And that is why you need to be in a space where you can concentrate, no distractions, and really just take time to think and introspect. All right, so I'm going to start off with the questions, the thought provokers, and I'll start with what I call magical triplets. Okay, the magical triplets. And the first one is, these 3 things I will love about myself. These 3 things I will love about myself. The second one is, I am ready to let go of these 3 things. I am ready to let go of these 3 things. The third one, these 3 things I want to achieve the most. These 3 things I want to achieve the most. The fourth one, these 3 people will be my pillar during rough times. These 3 people will be my pillars during rough times. The fifth one, these 3 things I will dare to discover. These 3 things I will dare to discover. Number 6, these 3 things I will have the power to say no to. These 3 things I will have the power to say no to. Number 7, I will connect with my loved ones in these 3 ways. I will connect with my loved ones in these 3 ways. Number 8, with these 3 presents will I reward my success. With these 3 presents will I reward my success. Okay? So those are the magical triplets. Now, when I talked about the vision boarding sessions or workshops being 4 to 6 hours long, it's because these thought provokers are meant to stop you to really think about the things that matter to you, the things that you need to change, the things that you need to work harder at, the things that you actually need to stop altogether. And it really builds a good, background for you, because it allows you to look into your past. A lot of times, at the beginning or the end of the year, you take time off to just introspect and make your plans. But I strongly believe that, you can't make plans into your future without taking stock or perspective of what you have been through and where you are today. And so it allows you to really just stop and review, the things that matter to you, whether it's family, whether it's within your career or your work environment or business environment, whether it's with regards to, relationships that you hold with different people, your highest ambitions and dreams and the things you want to achieve. So this is really an exercise that takes quite a bit of time. So I hope you've taken note of those questions and those thought provokers. I'm then going to share what I call inspiration statements. And these are statements that are really geared to drive you forward. They're really geared to inspire you even as you begin to work on your vision board. They're geared towards, just giving you a shift of perspective and enable you to think things a little bit differently so that you're not stuck in your current reality and you're able to think a little bit broader and push your vision a bit further. So these inspiration statements, again, I will request that you write them down, and you can then, once you do the exercise and write down the answers, you can then be able to use that to build the vision board. So the first one of the inspiration statements is, I will not procrastinate anymore on fill the blank. I will not procrastinate anymore on. The second one is, I will draw the most energy from fill the blank. I will draw the most energy from. Number 3, I will say yes when. I will say yes when. The next one, I will advise myself to fill the blank. I will advise myself to. And the last one is, I will be the bravest when. I will be the bravest when. Great. So I hope you have taken note. These are, I would say, inspiration statements, and they'll help you to really think about what it is that you want to go after. I will say yes when. I think when I did this exercise the first time, that question really caught me off guard. A lot of times we don't think about when you will say yes. What are the circumstances, or what kind of a scenario needs to come towards you for you to actually say, I'm going to go after this? And I think perhaps men do better at saying yes more than women. Women, we tend to second guess ourselves. We tend to, think through things and say, this is a new role. I know I can do it, but I have 9 out of the 10 skills that are required. Let me wait until I get to the 10th skill and then I will try. You need to really interrogate and be able to say what it is that you need to do to be able to drive your highest best self. So I'll now quickly go through the 9 parts of the vision board. And as I said earlier, this is a holistic vision board, so it covers the whole person. So it will look at different areas and aspects of your life. So I've started off with spiritual or divine connection. And for me, I feel the vision boarding exercise is a very introspective and I dare say a spiritual exercise. Because as a Christian, from where I stand, my Creator knows why He put me on this earth. So it's very important for me to have a very, intentional spiritual connection to enable me really tap into, that divine understanding. Why am I here? And I think for me, this is something that, you each need to sort of just take time to engage with. The second one is around personal life and family. And I think this is self-explanatory. This could also be, relationships, and really just within your nuclear as well as extended family. The third one is on finances. And this again is self-explanatory. Really just looking at your finances, looking at what it is that you want to achieve as far as your finances are concerned, where you are today, and what it is that you need to change or adjust to get you to your goal. The third one is around work, studies, profession, or business. So depending on where you sit, you can work on perhaps one part of it. So you could say, maybe I'm focusing on my business, so I will sit and just map out what it is I want to achieve for my business. Or you could have various aspects that are relevant to you. So you could be working, so there's a profession side, and there could be you want to pursue your education further, so there's a studies aspect, and maybe you're running a business. Okay. The fifth one is on investments, and this is really just about building your investments, looking at what it is that you want to achieve from an investment perspective, building your security. And I think this year has really, brought the importance of investments to the fore for everybody, really. Just being able to think about, what am I doing to ensure that I have a sense of security, both for myself and for my children and for those around me, really. The other set of 4 points or four parts is health and fitness. And health and fitness is a big one for me because I find that a lot of times as women, and I'll speak for myself just to share my personal journey, you can be very driven, in your career, very driven in, and very ambitious in pursuing further education. You still have to think about your finances. You have to be the homemaker, worry about the children, be there for your family and your friends. You have parents you need to take care of. And a lot of times you forget yourself, and your health, your fitness suffers. Now, the reality is, if everything else is, you're giving your best and everything else is, working perfectly, and then you lose your health, the truth is everything else will crumble. So in your vision board, you really have to have a place for your health and your fitness, a place where you can sit back and say, what am I doing to ensure that I am at my best from a health perspective? I'm eating right, I'm resting enough, I'm exercising, I'm taking time away to recharge. It's very important. And then of course there's relaxation and hobbies. So those things that you like to do just to recharge, going cycling, going mountain climbing, whatever your hobby, it's important to factor it in. Then there is the wider community and your friends. Again, going back to the point I raised earlier, making an impact. What are you doing for your society? It cannot all just be about you. Because the truth is, when you get that mansion with 5 bedrooms, then what? When you get that Range Rover, then what? It will just continue to be an endless chase for the next thing. So there has to be a place where you ask yourself, what is the impact that I'm making in the community that I'm in? How am I giving back? How am I serving? And how am I leaving a legacy? And then the last one is on bucket list. And bucket list is really just, dream wildly and just ask yourself, what is that thing that I want to do? Your bucket list, just go wild. in that particular segment. So this is really what I call the 9-part of the Actualize It vision boarding exercise. Again, I will say that this exercise usually takes, quite a bit of time, because you have to sit and ask yourself very intimate, very introspective questions where you're really trying to get to the bottom of the things that are meaningful for you and write those down and then translate these into images. So I can give you an example. So for me, when it came to my studies, profession, business, and work, within the space of studies, I had been longing to pursue my MBA. And for a long time, I actually kept going online and looking at the different MBA programs that were out there. But I never really did anything about it. It was always an endless desire. So I'd start the year and say, this year I'm going to do it. And then another year would come and go. So finally, when I did my vision board, I narrowed down on the specific university that I wanted to pursue my MBA in. And this was ALU University, Africa Leadership University. And once I did that, I was able to put up the ALU logo on my vision board. And that was a continuous reminder for me that this is something that I'm working and aspiring for. And today, I'm so honored and grateful because I am the current chairman scholar of the ALU MBA program for the year 2020. All because I put it in my vision board and I put in place the steps that I needed to be able to achieve it. So in the interest of time, I'm going to go straight into how do you actualize your vision. The truth is, it's not magic. You're not going to just put up pictures and walk away. The reality is that there is work to be done. And here are 6 quick ways in which you can achieve that. The first one is that you have to keep your vision board in front of you. It's about that correlation between what you're feeding your mind and how it is keeping you focused. So for me, as an example, I keep my vision board near my dressing board, where I know I will stand every beginning of day and every end of day. And therefore, I can stop for a minute or two and interact with it. And as I interact with it, it reminds me of what it is I'm trying to achieve. It reminds me that I'm trying to pursue that MBA. I'm trying to get myself that, car. I'm trying to get myself that investment. And it embeds that image in my subconscious. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this. When you have an image in your mind, and I'll give you a very practical example. Have you noticed that when you make a decision to perhaps buy a certain vehicle, suddenly as you're driving on the streets, you start to see that car everywhere? Whilst before, you never saw it. And it appears in the exact color, shape, and make. And you start wondering, oh, I didn't realize that there are so many BMW X5s on the streets, for example. And that's just the power of images. Because it influences, your subconscious influences the decisions that you make. The second one, and which for me is very powerful, is start with the 3 top goals that are easiest to accomplish. So of course you'll have, various goals that are on your vision board. Some are very easy to achieve and some are, 2, 3, 5 years out. Start with the ones that are easiest, because what happens is that when you close out on them, it keeps you motivated to go after the next one. You realize, oh, this thing is doable. The third one is map out the steps you need to take to achieve those goals or that vision. So map out the steps. So for instance, for me, when I put up Africa Leadership University on my vision board, the first thing I knew I needed to do was go in and put in my application. So now I had a very clear plan. I needed to go in, do a bit of research, put in my application, and when I did that, the ball started rolling and things started coming at me. And then there was an opportunity for me to apply for the scholarship. And then I did. And, everything just unfolded. So map out the steps that you need and be very clear about, I need to start here and I'll need to do it by this time. So make sure you set goals, set timelines and deadlines. The fourth one is what I call the habits self-assessment. And habits are things that you do automatically without thinking about it. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is grab your phone and look at Twitter. It's a habit. You just want to see what's happening, what's in the headlines. Or you can't leave the house without grabbing a mug of coffee because, that's what you use to energize as you drive to work. That's a habit. So have a habit self-assessment where you sit down and ask yourself, what are the habits that I need to stop? Because these are the things that are taking away from my time, that are taking away from, the time that I could be spending focusing on whether my investments or whether it's family time. So ask yourself, what are the habits that I need to stop? And then on the other side, ask yourself, what are the habits that you need to start? What are those new things that you need to begin to intentionally work on and do? The fifth one is creating a routine or a system that will support those habits. And the reason for this is because you'll not always be motivated. You'll not always wake up on a Monday morning and jump out of bed. You will at some point, be too tired or not really feel like doing it. So you need to create a routine that makes sure that whatever it is you're supposed to do on a daily gets done. So if you plan to read a book a month, then you have to be intentional and say, I will start every morning with reading 2 chapters. And that becomes something that you do every day, come rain or shine. And you build a system and a routine that will support the habits that you desire to build. The sixth one is about consistency. Discipline is really about consistency. So you have to push yourself and make sure that you are consistent. You show up because you're showing up for yourself. So in closing, I want to share the 4 key takeaways. Firstly, the power of vision. It's really about what you perceive, you achieve. So be intentional around what it is that you're feeding your mind and what it is that you surround yourself with. It's interesting, I was having a conversation with a group of ladies that I was actually doing a workshop similar to this one with. And we discovered together that you actually do have a default vision board. Whether you know it, whether you like it or not. What does that mean? What that means is, whatever you have put in your surrounding, in your environment, if you've surrounded yourself with perhaps, toxic people, you've surrounded yourself with, negative media, you're always reading about all the negativity, you've surrounded yourself with a lot of negative, then that becomes your default vision board because that's what you're depositing into your mind. So you have to be intentional and you have to ask yourself, what is it that I am surrounding myself with? What am I feeding my mind? The second one is build the right habits. It's all about habits. Making sure that the wrong habits stop and the right habits begin. The third one is trusting the process. It will take time. It's not magic. You'll not put an image of a car and tomorrow, boom, it's, in your driveway. It's a process. So you need to work the plan. You need to be able to say, I have to do this by this time. I have to save this amount of money by this time. And I will do it in this way and that way. Put together that very detailed plan towards that goal or that vision that you've set for yourself. And the last one, which is my absolute favorite, is start today. The reality is, a lot of times when you want to achieve something or you want to go after something that you feel is really audacious and really, grand, you start by saying, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. I don't know anybody. You know what? You have something in you that can get you started. So you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the first step and make that first step. So start today with what you have. There are various resources online. However, what I have found is that everyone has a different way of, putting together their vision boards. And just given the 9 parts that I shared, that can be somewhere for you to start. There's really no hard or fast rule around how to do it. What is important is to be able to have the right kind of questions, to provoke the right kind of thoughts, so that you can be able to put down your ideal best self. So you can use what I have shared as a start, and I have put up my contacts on the screen, so you can perhaps send me an email if you need me to help you work through that. I'm very much available, and I'll be honored to walk that journey with you. So you can work off the 9 parts that I shared, and as I said, there are lots of resources online that you can just search for and work with. The second question, which is around trusting the process, I think for me, this is a very important one, because a lot of times we find ourselves getting impatient. You know, you want that house and you want it now. But the reality is that you don't have the ability to access it. So it goes back to, what is your plan? How have you broken down the process of what you need to do, the intentional steps you need to take to be able to actualize that house or that MBA or that, career? So you want to be CEO of the organization that you're working for today. Sit down with yourself or with your career coach or mentor and just work out, what is the trajectory that will actually get me there. It might be that I go back to school and earn an added skill. It might be that I change careers altogether so that I can go into that trajectory that will take me to that end goal. But you have to come from a place of having a plan and putting together, the plan with deadlines. And then you can be able to walk through the process.